Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Fan Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. So come get some. CromCon.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 7th and 8th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish. They're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Gilbert, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday night as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Hey everybody, welcome to Silverline Silver Sunday. You may have noticed things are a little bit different this pre-Christmas week. Roland Mann is still not here. I am still the guest host, Tom Mason. You might remember me as the co-founder of Malibu Comics, co-founder of Malibu's Ultraverse. I write for TV, I write comics, I write all kinds of goofy stuff. And also my two co-hosts are not here, Mike Belcher and Tommy Florimonte. They have decided to spend the holidays with their family, or perhaps it was just something I said. We have some Silverline business to get to. First is the Trump's #1 comic from Silverline is still in the Diamond catalog. You can still order it. Trump's is a sci-fi superhero about superhero drama about 4 kingdoms on a fictional world called the Deck. So it's not about politics. It's about a playing card superhero universe. Only one kingdom can hold the seat of power. Only one kingdom can be in the suite of power, and that kingdom is called Trump. So it's like a Lord of the Rings meets Game of Thrones, with maybe a cape or two thrown in with the boots and the funny hats. So check that out. So tonight I have 3 special guests. They're all friends of mine. I've known them for a long time. The first is Shaun McLaughlin. He was a writer producer at Warner Brothers, where he worked on a bunch of stuff like Animaniacs, Batman Beyond, and Batman Superman Adventures. And last year, he crowdfunded a short film called The Last Night of the TwiKnight, which he wrote, produced, directed, and starred in. And we're going to show a trailer for that here in a few minutes. Jeff Vaughn is my second guest. He's the president of Gemstone Publishing, and that really is all you need to know about him, because his big job is to produce the Overstreet Price Guide every year, and that's a mammoth 500, 600, 800-page undertaking, and he does it every year on time. He's also crowdfunded a number of his comics that he's created, including his most recent, which is Al Capone Vampire. My third guest is Mark Haynes. His bio that he sent me is a lot longer than everybody else's. He has financed an audio drama, Hindsight, which he wrote and produced. Before that, he's been working in and around television, comics, and pop culture for more than 20 years, in addition to publishing comics based on the original Battlestar Galactica, co-writing comics based on 24, Stargate Universe, and Stargate Atlantis. He's written numerous pilots and series concepts. Oh, haven't we all? Including the most recent Hyperloop with JC Vaughn, which is a new science fiction TV series in development from Roddenberry Entertainment. That's the Roddenberrys. Mark is currently developing new television and premium audio series through his own production company, MHP, and he's got a premium audio drama called Hindsight the Day Before, which stars Santiago Cabrera from Picard and John Goodman from Apple's Monarch Legacy of Monsters. That'll be dropping on podcast platforms everywhere in early 2024. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce all three of them. Mark, Jeff, Shaun, pop in here.
Howdy, Tom.
Look, it's the all white guy with glasses show.
Yeah,
I'm only part white. I'm only part white. Remember?
Yeah,
glasses. Jeff needs a hat.
You don't even know it's me. That's right. I feel left out now. I don't have a hat.
Yeah. Remember, but it really, I'm only part white. So let's get that one down.
That's right. Because you're part Native American.
I'm a Choctaw.
Yeah. All right.
I'm undercover, sneaking around, getting you guys plans, and then I'm going to do a dance later, and you're all in trouble.
Well, I'm mostly Irish apparently, so I can't stand out in the sun for more than about 4 minutes.
Good chance you'll burst into flames.
Yeah, I think so too. And you'll be able to read a book through me.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm a Choctaw, but like every gene is recessive apparently. Blue eyes, beard, don't tan well. And you don't have a card with you that proves any of that. Yeah, no, let's not go there. We're the only race that's asked to have papers to prove it.
That's so here's the thing. The theme is for tonight that I wanted to get into is sort of do it yourself, because all of you guys are really doing it yourself. And I know that do it yourself is sort of a misnomer because nobody ever actually does anything like this by themselves. However, you're the spearheads, the ideas that popped out of your own heads, and you're
elsewhere.
Or where?
Or elsewhere.
Or elsewhere. And so you're, in a sense, doing it yourself, even though you bring others into the party. And so that's where I want to go. And I think I want to run the trailers first. So Pops, if you could load up Shaun's trailer for the TwiKnight, we will play that. Hang in there, guys. It's about 1:46 seconds, and it's well worth the time. You might even laugh. I put the link in the private chat. Maybe it will load. So, how you guys doing?
I do not see anything in the private chat.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't see it actually either, Tom.
Should be the first thing way up at the top.
All the way at the top, it says adding you, Tom. You must have put it in there before I got here.
Well, you know what? I'm just
see it. I'll put it again, please, and I will handle that for you.
There you go.
We're broadcasting.
Yeah, just the four of us.
We are entertainment professionals.
It's
the other people that Tom mentioned that work with us on our projects do this part.
Right. Here's the thing. Here's the big secret. I'm technologically illiterate, and it's one of my key components of my daily life.
And you revel in it, don't you?
Yeah. So now we all get to watch. We get to watch each other watch it. It's rated R. Should we be watching this at all?
I don't know if anybody should be watching it. So
okay. No one told me there would be text. I'm gonna have to put my glasses on.
Yeah. Is there sound? There you go. You need the sound.
I don't usually drink coffee before I go out on patrol. I mean, this suits a motherfucker to get off when you have to pee, and then there's my hands. You know, you spend 30 years punching people and take collagen. That's supposed to be good for your joints.
It was exciting at first. You don't realize what's happening to you.
Switched to carbon fiber a few years ago. Otherwise.
Was he wearing that bodysuit thing? He always looked so hot in that. I could have killed him, but no. The mask. I had to see what he was hiding.
This doesn't do shit to hide your identity. Fuck you, Zorro.
The plan that took him down was pretty simple.
I didn't think it was fair, really.
I thought he had a gun.
He couldn't think it through.
TwiKnight? Well, the name just came to me. It's I was going to be out mostly at night, and I wanted to be a night, night with a K. And night just sounded like something your mom says to you when she puts you to bed.
All right, so the end. So that says it's coming soon, but it's actually available like super now, right?
No, I haven't made it available yet because we were waiting for things to finish with the strike because there was nothing we could really do with it. It's been out to a couple of festivals. I got a couple of statues, but it hasn't been released to the public yet, and we're probably going to do it early next year and put it up on Vimeo and YouTube and things like that.
Okay. Wait, Vimeo still exists?
It did what I wanted it to do. Yeah, Vimeo is actually for short films and things like that. Vimeo is actually still a viable platform.
That's excellent. All right.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Haynes, now we're going to run yours.
Okay. It's audio only. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. It's your deal.
I just wanted to tell everybody it's audio only, so I don't know what you'll see. Well, or you can close your eyes.
Yeah, that one doesn't come through at all. That one's sending me to a Google Mail that says the conversation cannot be downloaded.
I'm going to put an address in there for you. Stand by.
I was hoping, if it's just audio, I was hoping we'd get a real extreme close-up on Tom for the entire thing.
No, it's going to be like the 1940s where people just sat and stared at a radio.
If I just my house. Another link in the chat. The trailer is actually playable from the homepage of my website. So if you want to put that up there, there's also some graphics that we could look at the same time. I don't know if that link will work, but give it a shot.
I'm going to try to smile like Richard Dawson, waiting for the cue.
Okay, I got you there. Now, where's the link at?
Right in the top there at the blue box. There should be a play button on the left-hand end.
All right, here we go.
From MHP and Radio Pictures.
January 6th, 1906, Harry Houdini, the handcuffed king, has done it again!
My name is Harry Houdini. If you have discovered these recordings, then there is every chance that I am no longer among the living.
Oh. Madam Koslova?
Mr. Houdini.
I have devoted much of my energy to debunking so-called spiritualism.
As a practicing medium, I have always been a fraud.
I have been able to unmask and debunk each and every case of communication from beyond the grave that I have taken on, but not the first one.
This seemed completely real.
My assassin is here! My assassin is in this room with us!
What's happening?
Stop.
What is happening?
Quiet!
Are you seriously speaking of the possibility of
supernatural effects? That is why we're asking for your assistance, Mr. Houdini.
The Koslova case led me to discover a world that exists alongside our own.
What on earth have you gotten yourself involved in, Harry?
It is this other world that I strive now to unmask. It has become my life's work with Bess at my side.
I think it's time we beard the lion in his den.
Harry Houdini, the world-renowned magician, and now of all things, amateur sleuth.
Our work continues, and the danger increases every day.
Mr. Houdini, Mrs. Houdini, please back away. It's not safe. Not for anyone.
Harry?
Wait, darling.
This is getting deeper and darker by the second.
Santiago Cabrera.
Do we keep going?
Sibongale Malambo.
I think we have to. Carefully. Together.
Ian Anthony Dale. Very few persons are lucky enough to know where and when it will end for them. And John Goodman.
You must be careful, Harry. These people are evil incarnate.
Hindsight, the day before. An original premium audio drama. Presented in stunning spatial sound. Coming soon to your favorite podcast app.
I love that.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
I'm a tingle because it's got John Goodman in it. And
I was too.
So here's my main question is, how do you get him? How do you get a guy like John Goodman to do anything that he doesn't want to do?
Well, a couple of the guys, our technical director, a guy named Ted Bonnet, who runs a company called Radio Pictures that we partnered with as a co-production on this, has actually known John for about 35 years, I guess. They were doing improv radio shows in New York on the same station, but at different times, so they never ran into each other. And then one day, well, they did, and kind of the rest is history. And then there's another fellow, Phil Proctor, and who was part of a famous group, improv group in the 70s called the Fire Sign Theater.
Oh yeah.
And and so they all kind of knew each other through some fire sign work. And when we came up with this project, this was actually based on a television pilot I'd written several years ago. And then Ted heard it, and we had an idea of what we wanted to do that wasn't being done in podcasts, which was really build an immersive experience, which we used the Dolby Atmos audio technology that's generally used for theaters and used it here. And if you listen to this on a set of Apple AirPods, it is stunning. I mean, it really does envelop you in the sound. And so he asked John, and John didn't even read the script. He just emailed back from the I forget which. Oh, he was on the set of Righteous Gemstones, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And I mean, it was. And then the other people kind of came along after that. They were reading our script, and we met with a lot of people. A lot of our cast, we set out to cast it like we were casting a TV show. So we used, we connected with a fellow named Russell Boast, who was the former past president of the Casting Society of America, and he loved it. And turns out he's been a Houdini fan, and if he hadn't been a casting director, he might have been a magician, the way he tells it. So we, from that point, we said we want to cast this as if we were casting a TV show, because when we go out for television, we want people to look at our artwork and listen to the sound,
right,
and just immediately see it. So John, that's how John got involved, and then everybody else kind of came along after.
So then, how many times did you have to say, John Goodman said yes?
We didn't have to say that at all, actually.
Oh, okay.
It was part of the original pitch, because everybody who's asked wants to know who else is involved, and John was actually the first person we got. So
I know from hanging around us, we always ask who else has said yes.
Which generally that applies to lunches at conventions. It's like, who else is going?
Who else is coming? And I like them.
I don't know if I could do that.
All right, so Jeff, I don't have a video for you.
You actually do now.
I do. Did you put it in the link?
Yep.
All right.
Now this is for the number one, but it'll let people know what this is about.
All right, let's play it.
Oh, that's cool.
Hi, I'm JC Vaughn, the creator of Al Capone Vampire. Some projects require an elaborate pitch. This one does not. It's Al Capone, and he's a vampire. but I promise our story has a lot more to it too. The events spring out of Vampire PA, but you don't need to have read that one to get this one. There's a brief recap, but the setup is really straightforward. Al Capone is back, he's a vampire, and he's decided to become boss of Chicago again. We have art by Brendan and Brian Frame, colors by House of Magi, letters by Mindy Lopkin, edits by Jason Oldcap Odom, and a ton of technical advice from our pal Mario Scala. We also have an incredible variant cover from Dan Lawless, and if we hit a few stretch goals, we've got some incredible stuff up our sleeves. The book is ready to go to press. We just need your help to make it a reality. On behalf of our whole team, I'd like to thank you for checking out our crowdfunding effort and for your consideration. Thanks.
There. I feel like I should have brought my own commercial too.
You should have. And I clearly bent to peer pressure because I wasn't gonna do one because I don't have a campaign running at the moment. But what the heck?
Yeah, but still, join the club. So here's
we could be like the youngsters and be branding, Jeff. We're always branding.
That's right. Always got to be on brand. Just like David Mamet's always be closing. You got to be always be branding. ABB. So here's my question: is that and I guess we'll go around the horn. So Jeff, why Al Capone? What's
that's a great question. The answer is, of course, why not?
Right.
Okay.
You could have done Dillinger. You could have done Pretty Boy Floyd. You could have done Bonnie.
A number of years ago, I was doing a little bit of research on early Dick Tracy. There's a series of panels there where strips where in the dailies where Tess Trueheart's dad is killed, and they're known as the Blood Dailies. And what happened was that Tracy was created sort of as a foil for the fact that the mobsters, particularly those in Chicago, but not exclusively, were gaining such popularity that people really wanted to do something about it. And right. So, and Capone being a prime architect when it comes to Chicago. And so that always had it in the back of my head from doing that research, writing about it. And that was for work. And so it was really, it's fascinating to me. And then once the idea came to me, it was sort of just hard to ignore. It was just, Al Capone vampire. Okay, got to do that. And it sort of happened a number of years ago when I still lived in Maryland. I called my artist on Zombie Proof, Vincent Spencer, and I had just gotten out of the shower. I literally, one of those, you grab a towel, dry off, grab your robe, and get on the phone. Hey, I just thought of this. Then the next time that we see this one character, he's going to be so traumatized by the fact that his former friends locked him in a house with zombies that he's going to appear dressed as Harpo Marx and carrying a samurai sword. And Vince was the kind of guy who goes real quiet for like 2 seconds and goes, yeah. And so once you've made that leap, Al Capone vampires really not.
I got to look up Harpo Samurai again.
So yeah, that's Mr. Watanabe in Zombie Sama and Zombie Proof rallies, Zombie Sama's Billies. But the thing that came together with it was I don't tend to do on my own creator-owned stuff. I don't do an enormous amount of research. That's part of the fun of just making it up as I go.
Yeah.
But with Capone, I ended up particularly when we got to the origin issue, number 3. I wrote and rewrote, and we even, when you see number 3, I've even got literal actual prison records and his death certificate in there.
Well, because you don't want to make the Chicago mob angry.
Well, I also wanted to go with I wanted my springboard, as weird as it is, to be as real as possible.
Well, I like it. We're gonna get to. I'm gonna show a cover here in a second, but Mr. Mark, the same question really to you is why Houdini? Because we've had a number of conversations, and except for talking about the drama, Houdini doesn't come up. So where does Houdini come from?
Where it came from was, originally it was. This is actually came out of 2 different ideas that I was working on. And one of which was, I was probably watching something on History Channel when they still did history shows. And it was was talking about Harry Houdini. I think actually it was an episode of The Unexplained with William Shatner, which if you haven't seen it, is just a delight.
It's
because it's
the history version of his records.
Oh my goodness. He's like, I'll show you Leonard Nimoy. You did your show in the 70s. Now I'm here and I'm doing it. And nobody will remember In Search of.
And
but,
I'm coming in and I'm recording 20 episodes worth of intros in one afternoon. You're going to get one take.
That's right.
You can watch it when they binge them in order, when they're running their marathons that they do every week. You can watch them getting tired as it goes. Showing them in order. But
he's a 90-year-old space captain now. It's not as spry as he once was.
What's funny, his just the quick aside, Tom, I'll tell you, is that his tagline is, well, this is what we'll try and find out. And he does it differently with every single one. Sometimes he does, well, this is what we'll try and find out, and I need somebody out there in YouTube land to do a supercut of all of these.
He's acting. He's a different character for each one.
I give him grief, but and he does narrate the entire show too. So it's not like he's just introing and then disappearing. But speaking back to Houdini, the concept is that after Houdini died, the story is that he was, so well developed abdominal muscles from his illusionist routine and his escape acts that he challenged people to punch him. And so the story is a college student comes up and punches him when he's not ready, bursts his appendix, and Houdini dies 2 days later. Now, and after that, of course, he had spent the latter half of his career, the latter part of his career, debunking spiritualists, which was very big in the 1920s. And as he did that, he was trying to communicate with his dear departed mother. And as he uncovered these people, he got progressively more angry about the fact that they were bilking people out of their money that they could hardly afford. I mean, your annual income was $200 or something like that. It was ridiculous. And so after he passed, he had made an arrangement with his wife, and this is a well-known story, that he would try to communicate with her and they would have a little bit of a code word. And the idea was that he misses and that he had an unknown heir, unknown to us, obviously, and that instead of communicating with his wife, he ends up communicating with a descendant who is a homicide detective in Seattle in the 2000s, in the 21st century. And that's where the pilot starts. Where the podcast comes in is, it came out of this idea of the fact that there are incredibly wealthy, incredibly successful people that every day we ask ourselves, does this person actually manage to do this, and that they're pulling this kind of value and this kind of money. And so what we have is a kind of a paranormal, supernatural explanation for that involves things like reincarnation, and basically the idea that there's a version of a group of individuals who use kind of a perverted version of what the Dalai Lama search is like, where when the Dalai Lama passes, monks go out, test individuals, and try to find somebody. Our theory is that this is happening at a kind of in a supernatural level, and to some degree, it's a privilege allegory. It's the idea that once you are identified, the way will be paved for you forward. So winners and losers are constantly being picked. And where Houdini comes in is that this is the case that he was working on when he was killed, and he was getting a little too close to revealing what was actually happening, and that the rest of us are here just to provide grist for the mill for these guys to.
He was getting ready to expose some billionaires.
Yes, he was. and the story is actually told in two time periods, one of which is the idea that this reincarnative process where the robber barons of the early 20th century, the Carnegies, the Mellons, the Vanderbilts, and the like, are now the Zuckerbergs and the Bezos and the Musks and all of that, is that this isn't just happening to those people, it's actually happening to everybody. And that information is the most secret information that there is. And the hero of the story is actually a college professor who discovers that he may indeed be the reincarnation of Houdini, and he has to pick up this 100-year-old cold case and, you know, start figuring out what's happening, if there's anything he can do about it. Otherwise, we will just continue on the way we are, you know, for the rest of eternity.
Well, I don't want to be food for the billionaire, so I hope he succeeds.
I mean, and certainly I wouldn't mind being a billionaire. I'm totally fine with that. But the idea is
don't want to be their food, though.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
I am curious though. What's the code word between Houdini and his wife? Do we know?
Rose. It was the name of a song. It was a popular song at the time called "Rosabelle Believe." Yeah, it was top 10. You know, it was Casey Kasem of 1921.
I saw the Metallica cover of that when they were on tour.
That's exactly. Well, Sue, when you said, somebody said blood comic earlier, and I'm thinking of the Marvel Kiss thing.
That's
from way back when I was working with Jeff. I first met Jeff on the working on the Overstreet Price Guide back in the 90s, and I didn't know anything about that comic book at the time. And I remember him telling me about it, and I was like, "That's gross."
So supposedly there's a Marvel comic with Mark Grunwald's ashes in it.
Oh, what?
And supposedly didn't a lot of the Kiss blood wind up in an episode of in an issue of Good Housekeeping or something like that?
Oh.
Not even in the comic.
That'll be awesome. And there's
Sean's going to start a rush on Good Housekeeping back issues.
There's a cult.
So kids, there were these things called magazines before.
It was like a comic book, but with more words.
But now there's a cult of Wiccan Good Housekeeping fans who are
more. I was going to say it's like a comic, but with more words, unless you're reading certain comics.
Oh dear, yeah, well, that's true.
So Shaun, we're finally around to you. So the TwiKnight, it's where's it coming from?
Well, you were there. Okay, so there were a couple things. It was one was that I've always wanted to make a film of my own. I spent a lot of time helping other people get their movies and their TV shows made, and not all of mine were. And I wanted to do something that was all mine. So I was casting around for an idea, and then Tom and I have always talked about what's a different approach to superheroes than everybody's doing. And a while ago, I'd had a meeting at DC, and they asked me what I wanted to do with Batman, and I said I'd like to do a story where he loses everything. He loses all his money, and he has to go back to being just a guy in a costume. And they thought that idea was crazy. You know, I thought about the some of the stuff that's going on with the NFL and concussions and what happens to older jocks. And I myself am an older jock. And there's a thing, if you want to make a short film or you want to make a film, instead of trying to make the biggest movie possible, use the things that you have at hand. And what I had was a friend who was our co-producer, who is a director of photography and has his own camera and light kit. And I had a bunch of actor friends from when I was an actor. I could write a story, and I had a suburban house that I was getting ready to sell to move where I am now with my partner. And what could I do with that? And I took the idea of a down on his luck older superhero who's lost everything in a personal injury lawsuit to a bad guy who's getting older and trying to figure out how to keep doing this and insisting on keep doing it, and it built it from there.
So you won't get off the field.
Right. It's exactly. It's you know, it's every fighter that keeps coming back. It's every player who unretires. It's Tom. There's a Tom Brady joke in the movie where he says, I train for performance, not looks, just like Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but Tom Brady looks better
than I do. Fuck you, Tom.
I think it's a given that he. So
well, he's also like how much younger than me.
So all of these ideas seem to have come from places where, you know, everybody wanted to do their own thing. Mark, you said yours was a script that didn't get developed its way, and Jeff, you're in the comic book business. So, and I mean no disrespect, but I don't see Marvel or DC publishing an Al Capone vampire comic. So,
well, can I jump in there real quick?
Yeah.
To touch on something you just said there is that part of, you know, the idea of doing it the way we did it is, and Shaun mentioned this too, which is it's like get something done, you know, get it out. The days of just writing a story I think, in pitching it, unless you are already established, in which case if you have a track record of material, great. But the other thing that primarily, and this is why I started my company, is there is this kinds of, everybody laments the reboots and the remakes and all of that kind of stuff, and with good reason, because it feels like if you're as old as this group is, which is, we're all very young people, but we are, we're going on to our third Willy Wonka, story. So I mean, that's like, as the joke that Americans will measure anything except using the metric system. That's it's right. Like I am 3 Willy Wonkas. That's how old I am. But the idea is that if you make it, you've removed one reason for them to say no, because all of a sudden they're intrigued. It exists somewhere else, and so it adds a little bit of momentum to it. So and Jeff and I talked about this for many years, because we have worked on projects, as the intro said, going back, to publishing Battlestar Galactica in the late 90s. And it was just like, as we were doing that, we were learning about the licensed comic field and looking at how much money we were spending to play in somebody else's sandbox, and said, we could have published our own comic book for 3 years and never sold a single one of them for the amount of money we were paying Universal for the opportunity for them to say, that doesn't make any sense.
And by the way, it was about 4 years before it would have been really cool to be doing Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
But
so anyway, I didn't mean to step on the question there, but
because the thing is, there is a sort of an entrepreneurial spirit that if you're the kind of person who likes to make things and see things made, it's kind of frustrating to have to submit to people constantly to hope that they will see the way you see. And so at a certain point, if you want to make something and do something, you really have to sort of get off your butt and actually figure out a way to do the thing.
And it also becomes an outlet, for that frustration, because you still have to deal with those people at some point.
Yeah, you still have.
Well, I mean, my day job is being one of those people. I mean, I'm a story executive, and I help people get their scripts ready to go to producers and deal with producers. But so
there you go.
So on some levels, I'm on both sides of the table. I'm the guy that says, "Can you make this?" And I tell myself no.
I absolutely, Sean. I frequently say, if I'm the creative guy who can speak to the business people, and the business guy who can speak to the creative people.
Right.
I mean, and because of my job, I flip back and forth, whether, as a freelancer, I'm on one side of the table, as executive, I'm on the other side. And it really is, you still see all the perils and pitfalls and everything else like that. But Tom, to what you said, there's something to it about going out and getting it done. As Mark alluded, it's effectively, it's a proof of concept. You've gone and done something. You said, hey, this was worth doing. Here it is. Right. And to your earlier point of, you don't see Marvel doing Al Capone Vampire. I think that's a really great example, which is nobody was going to do this for me.
Right.
And I've had, for the way the market is right now and everything, I just have a nice reaction to it so far,
That's the other thing too, why I am so enamored of this sort of, do it yourself idea, is that I see a lot of people on the sidelines complaining about, the industry won't let me do this. The industry won't let me do that. So, well, I think the industry will. You just have to put yourself in charge of the thing.
Amen.
Yeah, well, you don't go and ask the industry. I mean, like Tom and I, both go out and pitch stuff all the time. And part of why I wanted to do TwiKnight was I just wanted to do something that was mine, without a filter, without an editor. And this is all me, like it or not. This is what I would do if just let loose.
And I think it also takes what basic skills we have and then throws us into an arena where we're now trying to learn a new skill.
Yeah.
Where like
Jeff, the other thing too is that if you're taking something and you're putting it out there, whether you're putting it out there for sale or you're putting it out on YouTube, you're starting to build a very important skill, which is handling feedback. Whether it's positive or negative. Some people, you know what I'm talking about. Some people will think your thing is, I've got incredibly positive reaction to Hindsight and the other things that we're pitching. And, I mean, it managed to get me a good agent and a television production company that's already said they want to do television. I need to get, that was a month ago. When it was very brief in a phone call, it was like, we'd really like to do this for television. Okay, got to go, bye. And then it's like, wait, come on. It's like, and so, and now it's Christmas and New Year's, and they might as well be on another planet, So
right, yeah, you're not gonna. They won't get back. They won't get back to work until mid-January.
They're like, how was your holidays? Anxious. That's how.
Yeah, we're in the let's. Yeah, we're in the let's touch base after Sundance.
Yeah.
Period.
So, but the idea is that I may sound like I'm down on industry executives and people kind of on the business side of the table, but I really have to say it's like the thing that is easy to forget is that the person you're pitching to wants your idea to be good. They want it to be successful. They want you to be able to get it done. So when they're giving you the feedback, don't take it personally. They are. There's a thing I had an instructor, writing mentor tell me at one point. He said, they're looking for the uniquely familiar.
Yes.
And so, figure out what that means for yourself. But, the idea is that you have the opportunity is still there. And there are many of the people that you're going to be pitching to want you to succeed.
Because my friends.
I read. Go on. I'm sorry, Tom.
Oh, sorry. My friends, Chris and Paul, have a thing that it's not. People aren't looking for that revolutionary idea that changes everything because that makes people nervous. So what they're really looking for is like that next baby step. Like just do the thing that's familiar but moves the needle just a little bit.
Yeah.
Not uncomfortable when I want to part with some money.
Well, I'll tell you, I read 200 to 300 log lines every week. I read between 15 and 30 full scripts every week, and I make Tom read some too. And I am looking for something that excites me. I am looking for I'm looking for something that works, something that's current and that works, but I'm also looking for something really exciting. And the problem is that if I'm excited by it, I have to get other people on board. There's nobody who's a one, with the possible exception of Spielberg, who's a one person thing and can just say, this is going to happen. And I don't think anybody can do that by themselves. I still have to get other people on board, but I do want the exciting new thing.
How many times do I email you with a thing I found and I said, I think you should read this. And it's like, it's 99 out of 100 things I don't want anybody else to read because they still need a lot of work. But the one thing that when you find the jewel or you find the thing that is still a rough diamond, it still needs something, but it's a unique voice. It's a unique tone. It's a unique idea. It's expressed well as something. You want somebody else to read it as soon as possible. And I feel that way about scripts that I read, but I also feel that way about comics. Like when I find a comic book, and I get this from Jeff all the time too. It's like, are you reading this? Because I think the Jeff was the one who said, you should read the new Conan comic when I saw you at San Diego. And I said, why would I read the new Conan comic? And you go, oh, it's good. And I go, yeah, all right, sure, I'll go read it. And I read it, and it's terrific. It's a really good. I got excited about Conan for the first time in like 3 decades.
Yeah. Yeah, a really good barometer. They've got they're going to do Savage Sword as a magazine-sized comic too, and they've got Jesco doing the first cover, and it's his first Conan in 32 years. And I go, yeah, that'd be about last time I read Conan.
Right, and got excited about Conan, and really thought, oh, this could be.
Yeah, I think that's a great barometer, Tom, of the what you're saying when you're talking about like. I desperately look for comics that I can get excited about.
Yes.
Because I work in comics full-time, more than full-time. I collect comics and I write comics. So if comics go south for me, you can see I would have a problem.
Right.
So I really do, when I find the ones that I treasure, I tend to evangelize, just like I did on that case, because I was blown away by that.
Yeah.
He always tells me too, he's like, you should be reading this, or you should be doing, he's read all the scripts that I've ever written, and he's like, you should really be doing this as a comic book. And I still haven't ruled that out. We ended up doing the podcast only because of the pandemic. We were rolling right into television. We were going to pitch and get the money and do a pilot. And my producing partner is goes way back in terms of her experience in the industry to pull together tax credits and various other things to make something happen. And, she was pulling those levers when all of a sudden the machine was turned off, for 2.5 years.
Turn those machines back on.
Yeah.
I feel a little like Don Amici and
turn those machines back on. Exactly.
Good
so, your brother's not well.
But yeah, Jeff, my question always to Jeff is like, because he literally seems to read almost every comic that comes out. It seems like he's got, or he knows somebody who has, so he has an intelligence network in the industry that is unparalleled in terms of what's being created. He's got his, the information on the business side as well, including how aftermarket sales and even current sales are going through his relationships at Diamond. But, from a creative standpoint, he'll recommend a comic to me. And I said, are they lifting lines from movies wholesale, lines and scenes from movies and TV shows we remember? And he's like, they have a couple times. I'm like, not interested. Because I tell you, it's like I was working with Jeff at Overstreet's Fan when I think it was when Ultimate Spider-Man #1 came out. And there's, Brian Bendis was kind of like, people are kind of throwing, hired people to throw flower petals in his path at conventions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I opened the book I was working on the magazine, Overstreet's Fan. I was working in the art department, so I'm laying out an article and I'm waiting for something on my creaky old Mac, which was state of the art at the time, to scan or process or whatever. And I opened the book, and the first panel I look at is a complete lift of the classroom scene from Ferris Bueller, where he's going Bueller, whatever. And I'm just like, I didn't even bother to read it until he told me to go back and do it.
I was
by comic book sensei. Sorry, Sean.
That's okay. I was burned by Starfinger in the original Legion of Superheroes, so nobody's ever going to get one of those movie things by me ever again.
Well, it's such a cheap and lazy way to get something done. It's like, I don't mind if you reference a movie or pull a line from another show or whatever, but do something with it.
Yeah.
Don't do the identical thing that I just saw.
I agree. They're like, whether you go back to my comic strip Antiques or the Al Capone vampire that we're working on right now. Actually, it's a Vampire PA we're working on right now. There's usually Police Squad references in there, but I try to keep them at least somewhat oblique. And not direct lifts. Like literally, we've got.
They're not oblique if we know you personally.
we have a night. Yeah, I'm seriously laboring to include a 6-episode TV series from the 80s. But
well, you wait till you see my China Beach comic, buddy.
I like that.
Jeff like that episode of he's like Radar, that episode of MASH where he's trying to mail a Jeep home. Jeff is going to pick the entire police.
Like literally in the new one, they go to this nightclub in Miami, and it's Club Flamingo, which is one of my favorite gags from Police Squad. So
not apologizing. Hashtag
not at all.
No, because that's oblique. It's not a direct lift.
No, yeah, it really isn't. It really isn't.
It's a reference. It's a reference. It's not a lift. It's a reference.
Yeah. And so and because you're Jeff, you can get away with it.
Yeah, table 19, your pizza is ready.
So here's the thing: is that we had the pandemic, which put everything on hold, and then we had the writers' strike and the actors' strike, which put other things on hold. So we'll just take turns. Where do you see your stuff fitting into the new environment that's about to come forth?
Who wants to go first?
In terms of the entertainment industry, what is the new environment that's going to come forth? I mean, I've heard lots of things, and I talked to a lot of things, and Tom and I share some business associates, and I have a pilot written, and I have a feature version written, and I think that there's going to be more room for entrepreneurial stuff in the next few years and less room for going through big studios and things like that. I just think that's the way it's going to be, because I think the studios are really. Well, let me put it this way. In 1995, I got on an elevator at Warner's with one of the top executives at Warner Animation, and the first thing he said to the person he was with is, "If we can just get rid of the artists, we can make something out of this business." And And he turned to me and said, and then we could pay this guy more. And I didn't want to say, you hired me as a writer producer, right? But so I think that's not a joke, that what I just said. I mean, I think that feeling is out there, that there's going to be some machine way to make that. So people like us are going to be, I mean, I'd be perfectly happy to do the Wes Anderson, make my quirky movie every once in a while and then move on from there.
Well, what's funny is that the dust from the strikes hasn't settled yet. I mean, the actor strike settled so close to the holiday break that people were just kind of biding their time and stretching the meetings. And from what I'm hearing is very much, like what Shaun said, where you were starting to hear it bubbling up towards the end of the summer, and as we were moving into fall, and there wasn't any movement for the writers or the actors at that point. And what you started to think about was people are going to turn away from film and TV. I mean, everybody has one of these things. Almost everybody has one of these things. And so what you're going to get is people finding their entertainment a la carte. I mean, many younger people are already doing that, to the point where I saw an advertisement. YouTube runs an actual convention, and they said these YouTube stars will be there. And I'm like, I don't know any of these people. And it's like, if you want to ever confirm you're old, pick up a tabloid at the grocery store and flip through there and see how many people you know. And it's like, because so-and-so did this with so-and-so, and this other so-and-so is mad about it. And it's like, okay, sure, whatever. But the gist of it is, there are going to be more openings, because the more important, there's Hollywood, and they're going to look at what people are doing, and they're going to kind of do their thing. And to a large degree, you're getting all these reboots because they don't do development as much as they used to. It's easier for them to go through and find something and kind of repackage it and remake it for a younger generation. I don't particularly think there's anything wrong with that when it's done well. I think,
but it's what Hollywood's done since the beginning, and everybody acts like it's something new. But nobody remembers that the Maltese Falcon was the third version of that movie within 4 years. So.
But there have been 70 Tarzan movies, and there's been 50 Charlie Chan movies, and there were 15 or 16 Blondie and Dagwood movies. So there
were 29 Blondie and Dagwood movies, and they all seem like they just showed up on the set and said, "What are we going to do today?" I don't know.
Well, that was, I think was some of that, was from the contract system, where people just came in and it's like, you didn't know necessarily what you were going to be working on, but there was full employment.
Right.
I think that, film and television are still going to be looking at comics and other forms of media to find things to bring over. There's a handful of people that can take an original idea in there, but the thing I would tell people is, who want to get into this business on the creative end, is make something, because you have access to a series of tools that were unimaginable even 20 years ago.
Right.
And some of them even 10 years ago, Mark. You're absolutely right.
Yep.
So,
the camera we used to shoot TwiKnight was 100 times better than the camera we looked at to shoot a feature 10 years ago. And it's small, and you don't need that much lighting, and that goes across the board. And don't think the technology is going to make your stuff better. Your technology might make it easier to make, but your material has to come from inside you.
Exactly. Sort of gets to, that's Shaun. That's a really good point, and that sort of gets to my observation about this. First thing is, I don't trust anybody who tells me they think that they know exactly how this is all going to play out. Second, I think that when we get into the early cancellations of what will be a season that starts in January, so the early cancellations will come late January, early February,
right?
And we'll see what opens up in terms of television from that. The consolidation that's going to go on with streaming services is a real thing. So will there be less buyers out there, and how will that affect us? That said, there will not be fewer different ways to get our stories out. So again, we get into the entrepreneurial side of things, and things will do this. The other thing that I don't see changing, except maybe accelerating, is the trend of the last 3 to 7 years of looking to shrink the development curve, which is, you get your self-made story there, Shaun. You get Mark, you get your podcast. With me, you get comics, and with Tom, you get any number of these things. And you have, and so all of a sudden, what they would have spent all this time developing, now they're looking to do it faster and therefore save money doing it. It's going to be really interesting to see how this actually really plays out. For me, some of it's fairly traditional where, we'll start shopping Al Capone around. I'll keep making comics regardless. Right. But the thoughts I've had, and we've talked to some of our mutual friends about, range from going super indie, where I got much more of a voice in it, to, Fat and Happy, where they pay me to go away. I'm wide open to any of this. But the whole thing is, I don't think that there's, other than doing it yourself, there's no room for purity in this.
Well, one of the things I think too is that as you talked about is that as we make projects and we keep making them, the idea is like, I didn't make a podcast in order to have it become a TV show. I mean, that was the original, kind of, you think about it at the beginning, you're like, because podcasts are not terribly lucrative from a standpoint of being able to pay for itself. So the idea, the economics of television and film are different and established, so you know how to deal with that. But when people really started responding to the project was when it was clear that we were not going to abandon the audio portion of the show, even if it does go to TV. The idea is that we want to continue both. And if you can watch the TV show and absolutely enjoy it without listening to the podcast, the fiction podcast, but the fiction podcast is going to add a layer of interest and fun for people that are really into it and want to hear more, kind of additional elements to the story.
So that, go ahead.
But the idea is that, have a series of ideas and keep making things, because I think one of the things that the industry looks at is that, are you a one and done, or are you going to be a consistent producer?
What else do you have?
In some capacity, yeah, they're like, this isn't getting into the business. First of all, you're in the business as soon as you decide you are. There's nobody keeping you out. So as you start making stuff and putting it out to an audience, that's the same thing these giant corporations do. So eliminate that disparity in scale. Sure, they've got more resources and they, people who work for them can make a lot of money, but ultimately you're doing the same thing. I'm producing a piece of entertainment that I want to share with the world. Right. And now you have the ability to do that. Right. So the idea is that, the classic pitch line or the classic question in the pitch meeting, if they didn't like what you came in there with, or the first couple things, like, well, what else do you have?
Right.
So it's like, keep making stuff. You're learning how to tell a story better in whatever medium you're working on. And eventually somebody's going to pick up on the fact that, my God, look at Jeff Vaughn's been making comic books on the side for 25 years.
Well, I think there's a part of me that I think we've all been to this. We've been to this party. We've been to this function. We've been to this comic book convention. We've been to some sort of event where you've asked somebody what they're working on, and they talk about their script or their story or their idea or whatever. And it's like, well, I'm tired of that. What I really want you to do is give me a link, give me a printed thing, give me a something I can see.
I thought you were going to tell me you wanted me. What am I working on? It's like she's right over there at the bar. I was like, no, that's not what you meant. That's not what you meant at all.
I don't want to hear about your great idea. I want to see it. So go make
exactly.
Put the thing in my hand. Let me read it. Let me watch it. And if it's maybe it's not the perfect thing because it's your first thing or whatever. It's better than having me listen to you talk about it.
And you've got something. And with me, well, Tom was with me on TwiKnight since the beginning, and he knows that I made it with the idea of going someplace else with it. And I made it because all I hear is, well, you wrote animation, you can't write live action. I sold a script to Tim Allen, I sold a script to Kevin Spacey, but have you written any live action? Yeah, those were live action, but I did get that. So I wanted to make something live action. That was to do that. It was to get me new representation. It was to be a proof of concept, but it was also to do something I liked. I like this movie. I'm happy with it. It fits a vision that I had. And I think that's important, that people get so busy with trying to sell something that they forget who they are and put themselves in the project.
Because that's the thing too, is I don't really mind the idea of, oh, this comic book is just your movie pitch or whatever. I don't mind that at all, because if I know the person, like say, oh, I don't know, Jeff, I know that he's going to, sure, Al Capone Vampire, that'd be a great movie, that'd be a great TV show, that'd be a great whatever, but it's also a really good comic that comes from Jeff's heart. And so I know he's basically making the comic for the right reasons, but he also is savvy enough, hi Jeff, to know that there's an opportunity out there to, oh, I could do this more if I sell this to Hollywood or whatever. So
absolutely,
it's not so much selling out. It's about recognizing opportunity and taking advantage.
If it's about selling out, where do you sign up? But that's why I'm doing it.
That's ultimately what's funny.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to go the Howard. I was at a speech Howard was making once. I was actually there to introduce, because he and I knew each other. I was there to introduce him to my then wife. And at the end of the thing, somebody raised their hand and I said, "Aren't you selling out?" And if you know Howard, you can pretty much guess what the reply was. It's like, well, selling out is not necessarily a bad thing. You're not selling your soul. You're selling some work. And, you're always, if you're afraid of selling one idea or someone stealing just one idea, then you've got just one idea and see it.
Right.
Well, and on the topic of very quickly, if you're worried about somebody stealing your idea, that is the number one reason to do it faster than the other person who's going to be stealing your idea, because then they won't.
If you're talking about it at a party, it's pretty easy to just steal an idea. But if you have a printed thing or a visual thing and you've already done it, it's like, well, you can't really steal it at that point.
Well, as far as projects coming up, my new comic book series, Al Capone Werewolf, will be coming out sometime in the first quarter.
My joke was going to be Machine Gun Kelly Zombie, but
I'm like, there's a Wikipedia window over here of gangsters from the 30s. So,
and another one over here of monsters,
supernatural creatures.
But I think for
Meyer Lansky,
for mass appeal, though, Al Capone is the way to go.
What's that?
For mass appeal, Al Capone is really the way to go, because some of those others have not had the post-death PR that Al Capone.
That's true. That's true.
None of us said Dillinger. There's like 15 Dillinger movies.
That's right. Meyer Lansky Chupacabra.
That was really good, Mark.
Because it's set in old Vegas, and that's the that's the key. I know way too much.
Jeff, you got to get your book. I don't know if they would put it in, but the Mob Museum in Las Vegas is a must see if anybody ever is going to Vegas and wants a break from the gambling. It's wonderful.
It's in the old Star Trek Experience Hotel, isn't it?
It's actually in the old Las Vegas post office down near Fremont Street. So there's a speakeasy in the basement, which is great.
Hey, we have a comment here from Mike Belcher, who was one of the regular co-hosts on this thing. He says, "Hey, Tom and guest, just wanted to tell Sean how much a fan of Aquaman I was from his run."
That's really nice to hear, because I really appreciate hearing that, because DC pretends it doesn't exist or never existed. So,
they do that with a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've been fridged.
We had a publisher. Jeff and I worked for a publisher who shall remain nameless, who had a knack for the entire time we were working for them for debuting our books the week after San Diego Comic-Con. For a number of years, this would happen. They're like, "Oh, your books won't be out till next week. So sorry." No, it's like we're signing cocktail napkins in the hotel bar while everybody else is signing books in the convention.
Yeah. That's another reason. That's another reason to do your own thing, because you can control stuff like that. And if there's any mistakes, that's my fault. Okay.
But I also understand that when you do your own stuff, you tend to understand why other things don't work that you got mad about. It's like, I know why this happened now, because I tried to do it myself.
Because I know why this happened is because I was involved.
Right.
Because there's many times when you're watching something on television and it says, "Don't try this at home," there's a reason.
Right. Oh, so David Ace Gutierrez, another long running friend of mine, says this is very inspiring. What would you say is the minimum amount of money one would need to self publish a 22 to 24 page comic?
Jeff disappeared. He's the one who's in the midst of doing one right now, I think.
Well, I think to answer David's question is that the trick is you got to figure out who your artist is.
Yeah.
And because there's certain costs that don't change, like printing doesn't change. It's going to be plus or minus the same amount. And distribution doesn't change and marketing doesn't change. So it's really what you can afford to pay your artist and what an artist can afford to work for and what the deal is on the table for the artist and the writer. And so I think that's,
and as Jeff will, Jeff, go right ahead. I was going to answer.
I'm sorry to this. This is my first time I've ever done this. We just rescued a cat and it just escaped from where I have it held. So I got to go.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Is he still in the house?
Oh yeah. He just scaled 3 fences to get out of the bedroom.
Oh, okay. I thought he grabbed your keys and was heading for the car or something.
Yeah, go catch a cat. Have a Merry Christmas.
I'll do that, guys. Thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed the conversation, guys.
Jeff, take care.
All right,
Jeff. Well, I will.
I have to go scale a fence now, so I'll catch you later.
I got to rescue a cat from Jeff's house.
Yeah, I've got a laser teasing that cat out of Jeff's house. The answer, something else I wanted to mention to David from the comments was something that Jeff has done with his comics for a long time is that you also, as Tom was saying, figuring out the art costs unless you're drawing them yourself.
Right.
Is that Jeff will pay his artists when he can. He runs Kickstarters and stuff now, but some of his stuff, it's like, you got an extra $100 out of your paycheck, or you're taking $100 out of your paycheck. You're getting a page every 2 or 3 weeks. There's different ways to well, pardon the expression, skin that cat.
Right. You don't have to dump.
I should have said that.
If you and the artist come to an understanding, you could just pay a page at a time like that and just until the account is settled, and then figure out what the deal is once the Kickstarter or the crowdfunding or the whatever comes through. And that's and also figure out what the deal is for the movie or the TV show. And so I think that's
well. And the other thing too is if you find an artist who loves your idea as much as you do, you can come up with an arrangement, because they are going to contribute a lot in terms of character design. And honestly, it's the first thing that people see when they see the book on the convention table or on their retailer shelf. It's the artwork is going to make them pick it up.
Yeah, no, and you want the artist to feel vested in the property, and you want because really once you've written it, your cost is minimal.
Yeah,
it's much easier to write a 24-page comic than it is to draw a 24-page comic. And so I believe the artist is everything. And also pay the letterer, get a darn good letterer, because that's really the first thing people notice is the crappy lettering on your crappy comic.
Sean, I'm sure we'll agree. It's like if you're doing something on film, it has to have, a certain level of appearance and ability, but it's like sound will kill you if you don't spend the money for the sound.
Right.
So in lettering, it's always something with the dialogue. In comics, it's the lettering. On film, it's the sound. Make sure your sound is good.
Well, the other thing is like, how much does it mean to you? I mean, and what I said was, I looked around to see what I had handy that I could use to make this picture, and I had myself, a broken down ex-jock. I had my kid who was in acting classes and plays my son in the movie. I had a friend in Tom who knows how to publicize things and who at least pretended to me that he liked my script. And, a couple of other people. I was an actor at one point. I reached out to a bunch of actors and got maybe people who aren't world famous names, but Peter Michael Marino, who plays the ex-villain in it, is one of the best known solo performers in the world. I mean, he's run a one-man show on the West End of London. And I wound up spending a lot more money than I had expected to spend. And I talked to my partner, because we were talking about buying a house together at that point. And she said, look, I would much rather you lose this money making something that you really care about than just wonder for the rest of your life what you could have done with that money, that we got an extra bedroom because of it.
Well, that's to me, that's the key thing is you have, rather than write, Dune 6 or whatever it is, or, some sort of giant space opera that requires millions of dollars, and only 2 studios in the world can now make it. It's better to just look around the neighborhood and just make a list of the resources that you have, the skills you have, and the people that you know, and figure out how you can, and then write something to that.
And I found that paring the story down more and more, paring the superhero concept down more and more, gave a lot more substance to what I was originally thinking of as almost like a sketch.
Right.
You know, and it became a story. There's
a reason a lot of sitcoms can tell magnificent, far-reaching stories with just 3 sets.
Yeah.
Right.
And
right.
they've come up with a number of workarounds to have some really great action take place off screen. And then when they tell you about it in some sort of funny way, you think that it actually happened. And so
this is with Hindsight. You know, when we were developing it for television, you know, and obviously doing it in audio was certainly less expensive than doing it on film. You know, the setup for the TV series is that it's mostly a present day murder mystery, where the past elements that take place 100 years ago, where there would be costumes and sets and very expensive things that go along with that, is, you know, designed to be a quarter to a third of the show. So it'll be used, but the idea is that our present day characters have to access past life memories in order to solve the case. You know, and so those memories will take place. I mean, you get into some fun discussions about, like, well, why do they look like the actor in the present day instead of the character in the past? And it's like, the idea is if you're dreaming or remembering something, your self-image is what's going to be in that memory, not, you know, the past life. So, and also, you know, anyway, but the idea is it becomes a very fun, creative puzzle, like figuring out how to get that stuff done.
That's the thing too, is that a lot of these people are like, oh, you're messing with my concept. You're screwing around with my, you know, my brainchild. It's like, no. These are the challenges. I view it. It's Sherlockian to a certain point, where someone has presented you with the 3-body problem or the 3-set ideal, and you've got to figure out how to make that work. I find that to me is part of the fun. Like when the last time I was on a live action show and I was the set writer, and they would call me down to the set to solve the problem. You've got maybe 5 minutes to come up with the solution that makes actors, producers, director very happy. It's like, yes, I don't view that as
the fun part. That's the excitement.
Yeah. That's like staging a play in real time, and you're trying to figure out how to make it all work. I live for those moments because.
Well, and as a writer, who as a child tried to draw superheroes and ended up with one of those 50-page tablets full of red boots because they all looked wrong and I was using a pen instead of a pencil.
Right.
You know, my mother 45 years later still tells this story about you trying to draw Superman. Wasn't that hysterical? I'm like, thanks, Mom. But so that's when I knew I was going to be a writer. And the idea is that when you're writing a screenplay or you're writing a comic book, think of yourself as an architect. You're creating a blueprint that dozens of other people, in some cases, hundreds of other people are going to come along and add their creative elements to it. So it's not anything to be too possessive or precious about. Leave room for them to do the wonderful things that, you know, I mean, if you want to take a good example from the popular culture and all the Star Trek stuff is mostly out of frame here, but it's all like up on the walls. Star Trek is something I've loved since I was a kid, and it was only later that you find out that elements that we take as fans of a show that's, you know, 60 years old is the fact that the majority of the Vulcan culture was developed by Dorothy Fontana as assignments as she wrote them in those scripts, and then other writers picked them up. You know, Roddenberry hadn't thought about all that. He got the ball rolling, and he hired her, and he let her, you know, brought her in to write a script. And you know, John D.F. Black created the Klingons. Gene didn't create them. You know, somebody else created the Romulans. He didn't create them. And so, but it became, he got the ball rolling. So be the guy that gets the ball rolling. Be the person that gets the ball rolling, and you have no idea where it can end up.
Right.
And if you can't do that, you need to figure out a way to do it yourself. And if the
write
thing
a novel. Write a novel is the best way.
Yeah. Or I'll have trouble getting it distributed, or I'll have trouble getting people to see it. That's a secondary problem. You need to get it done first.
All that proves is that you pre-hate yourself. You haven't really. You're just a whiny little person who is just. I'm afraid I can't do it.
Yeah.
So people ask me why I write. I say I'm embarrassed to go to a therapist. I don't know. It's like so. I don't know.
I find you
I'm not. But
I find you can write and go to therapy, and it's
that's a new thing actually.
Yeah. Because
I can write, take medications, and go to therapy. So
gentlemen, I see the Christmas clock on the wall is to wrap this thing up. So here we go. So I want to thank my guests, Mark Haynes, Shaun McLaughlin, and cat chasing Jeff Vaughn for dropping by and telling us how the world works. Next week, I will not be here. I don't even think there's a show on Christmas Eve. Roland is still in Internet Down America. And I will be back on December 21st, 30th or 31st, rather, to chill and chat about the new year and how many times comics will be declared dying, which is my second favorite topic. So again, thanks to my guests.
Thank you, everyone.
It's good to just hang out with you guys. Mark, I'm going to be in LA in early January, so if you want the lunch, I'm asking you out on a date.
We should do that. That would be great.
So also thanks to Pop Van Zant, who runs the board and put everything up as we asked. And tonight I leave you with a quote from Howard Chaykin, whose name has come up a couple of times tonight. When asked what we need more of, he said, "Well-made chocolate. It's less of a dairy food and more of a perfect food," which is the most Howard Chaykin has spoken without a swear word in but he ain't wrong. Gentlemen, we're going to roll the credits. And if you want to hang out and chat for a few minutes after the show, please do.
Yes, absolutely.
Pops, ring us out.
Just wanted to give you all a heads up that right now you can add the Madness Network to your Roku account right there by Roku.com account. Add Prom 2. Check out our preview. We got 10 of our highlighted shows up there for you to check out. Some of our best stuff from the last 4 years. Look, it's hard to pick 10 out of 2,600 videos, but we did it.
My name is Ross Ritchie from Boom Studios and Make Mine Silverline.